All right, hello and welcome back to my channel. Last episode was a bit weird because my kid took over, but tonight we're back to the story times. And I don't know what I'm going to call these yet. If I want to call these like ADHD, roundabouts, insomniacs, unite. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So I ended up on this thought process because I was trying to find something spooky. And then my sister was like, oh my god, I wonder how many people have been killed on amusement park rides, which made me be like, holy shit, I wonder. Upon looking into this made me immediately regret ever looking into this and hoping to ever actually enjoy roller coasters the way that I do. I was really hoping to find a lot more like back in the 60s. No, a lot of deaths happened in like 2014, 2015, like, ugh. But it made me come across Kings Island, which is in Ohio, and it is known as, I think, America's most haunted amusement park, and it has a lot of stories to go with it. But one of the more famous ones, they call it their Black Sunday, where they had 3 people die. Is 4 injured, 3 random deaths all happen on the same date, almost at the same time. So I'm going to tell that story. I'm going to tell a couple other stories of actual deaths that happened there, and then you have the ghost that apparently still reside there and that you can still run into, especially if you work there apparently. So Kings Island, oh my goodness. Oh, I had a personal story. This is really bad. I wrote that ahead of my history. Okay, so let's go over Black Sunday. So June 9th, 1991 is Black Sunday. It happened, so you have 9 p.m. is rolling around, and Tim and his friend Will are crossing a bridge, a little drunk, a little extra happy. They've been chilling in the park. It's apparently like a work thing. And Tim decides to reach down and swoop the water up and hit his friend. Unfortunately, as soon as Tim's hand hits the water, Tim freezes up, falls into the water, causing his friend to be like, oh shit, I gotta get Tim, and jump into the water after him. Okay, which he immediately freezes up. A security guard nearby sees these two floating in the water and is like, oh my god, I gotta get in there. He hits the water, he's down. Thankfully, the third person now to see this sees what's happening and grabs a plastic trash or rubber trash can lid and puts it on the water so he can kind of stand or lean on it and pull the guys out. And then luckily nurses were nearby and were able to get other people, and ambulances are getting to them. Okay, put this story on pause. Around the same time, head on over across the park, and Taylor, a young lady, is getting into the ride that has like flipping pods. It goes in circles, and you can control when your pod flips. So unfortunately, she's getting this ride. She's doing it all by herself. Her friends have decided to go drink somewhere. She has been heavily drinking. She gets in the ride, and unfortunately, as they put her in and get the ride going, she passes out. And then when she passes out, this ride was meant to have 2 people in it, but for some reason, the attendants let her just go by herself. So when she passes out, she slumps over, maneuvering her body from under the bar, and her knee kicks the thing that causes her personal ride to flip, and she falls out. And her friends see her fall. They go after her, and they get her in the ambulance. Everyone gets to the hospital. Unfortunately, the only person who would survive this night was Tim, the very first person to flip the water. And that is our Black Sunday, which is very odd. Then they had a boy who, let me add this. Why was the water electrocuted? Well, because apparently the park had decided that even though it's required by law to have circuit breakers, who needs them? And a faulty pump was in the water and it caused it to be electrified, so causing the whole pool to get electrified. So unfortunately, if you really look into why things are going wrong in amusement parks, it's because their owners are cheap and they will kill you. Like, I'm telling you, man, this whole subject's so depressing. Don't Google this. If you genuinely enjoy going to parks, I have a season pass to Busch Gardens here in Virginia. I now kind of want to go, never mind. Even though I think the worst thing that's happened in our park is Fabio, that famous hot guy from the 80s, got hit in the face with a duck, which is hilarious. But it did break his nose, and he did not find it hilarious at all. So, yeah, unfortunately, so many of these parks do not maintain like they're supposed to maintain. In our second story, we'll get crazy with that. Okay, so back up a little, couple decades actually. In April of 1972, that's when the whole park opened, and okay, I'm sorry, I forgot where I was. This is why I usually like playing video games when I do this, because I have the excuse of why my mind's busy, like why I have to take pauses. No, it's just I have to take pauses because my mind goes, oh, I want to think about Cheerios right now, and I have to go reel it in mind, reel it in. Okay, so they had a safari section when they first opened. And you didn't get to drive your own car, but they drove you through it. And you could see lions and stuff. Well, I guess they had a keeper who was a bit too comfy with the lions. He was well known for being very flippant about being around lions. He'd get out of his truck often just to piss around them. He'd leave his radios around. He would try to do tricks with them. He was kind of asking for it. So, of course, it come one morning, they get there, and truck's empty, radio's in it. Dude is dead with the fucking lions. And at first, cops were like, suicide attempt, obviously. But once they learned more history on him, it really kind of more came clear of he more than likely was having another day, decided to just get a mosey on out with the lions. And the lions took him down. And I think he was actually the first death in the park. And then in 83, it was grad party night. And one of the grads was super drunk and decided, because, it's the 80s, and I don't think they had the 21 or older law yet. I'm pretty sure my dad tells me about that all the time. And then, so he kind of wanders away from his friends, but his friends want to go. There's this Eiffel Tower in the center of it. So his friends decide they want to go on the Eiffel Tower. He'll be fine. So they go on the Eiffel Tower and they get on the elevator and they're seeing some blood in the elevator and they're like, weird. And then the elevator kind of stalls and then they can't get past the second floor, and then they're kind of like, oh, something's obviously really wrong. We need to get out of here. So they get out and they go tell an attendant. And then come to find out that their drunk buddy decided he was going to show off. And so he went around the gated area, climbed up the side of the Eiffel Tower, got up onto the elevator where he was going to drop in on his friends, and he slipped. And then he got caught in the ropes, and then there were some accounts that he actually got, lost his head or cut up, but other accounts just that he fell hard, and that was the blood that they saw was his blood. So that was tragic. And then there's also the rumors that they built the whole park just on top of this mass cemetery, because there's still a lot of cemetery apparently just next to the park, and it's a very old cemetery. And sorry, my chair squeaked and I was like, So this is where the tale of the ghosts you see most come from, because, wow, there is no reports of seeing the Black Sunday guest. There are reports of seeing this Eiffel Tower gentleman. He can be seen apparently around the Eiffel Tower and cutting. He is known for cutting lights off and stuff. But there's also a little girl in blue, which none of these deaths include that. So that, I think that's where the cemetery story comes from. Of she must be from that cemetery. They say it's a 19th century dress, and she just kind of roams the parking lot, some of the restaurants. And then she'll walk across tram rails and cause like people to like, there was no little girl. I didn't hit anybody. So they call her oh, I didn't write it down. Oh no, I think it was like Maribel or something. But they think that because in the cemetery is a very, very, very old gravestone. It belonged to a 5-year-old. Pretty sure it was Maribel. And they just kind of went with that. Apparently, she possibly drowned, and that's how she passed. And then she just does the rides now. Then you have Racer Boy. He's dressed in all white. He can be seen near the racing roller coaster. Now, the suspicion of this one is that the parts of this roller coaster were actually from a roller coaster from Coney Island way back in the day. And this coaster, when it was in Coney Island, apparently had a boy get on to ride it. And by the time the ride came back, he was out and dead on the tracks. So this ride didn't last long. They ended up tearing it apart, and then this new ride decades later got some parts from it. So it's not like they took this roller coaster and put it here. It's just they chopped it up and was like, who needs a roundabout? And we were like, well, we do. And they put it there, and they think his ghost is just attached to the tracks, and that's how he got to the park. What, Kings Island. And then there is a beast ghost, where park workers will claim to see glowing red eyes in like the Ford sections and stuff. So that would freak me out, I think, the most. Honestly, I think any of these would freak me out. If I'm trying to have a good day, I'd really rather not be like, that was nothing. I'm just gonna be like, nope, saw nothing. It was nothing. It didn't happen. No. Okay. So now, in looking up these deaths, while this park is known for its hauntings, there was a park in the 80s called Action Park. And this park is not known to be haunted. It's actually shut down. It was just built so incredible. It's just known for having like the world's most fucking injuries. Couple deaths, like 6 deaths. And it was originally in 1976, it was just a ski resort. And the owner of that ski resort decided that, hey, we need some summer stuff. He was also known for building his own things. He regarded himself as an engineer, though he wasn't. So he decided, I'm going to build these cool slides and stuff. The first thing he built was part of the ski lodge where people could like sled down and they controlled it and stuff. And he boasted that like anyone could do it. 5-year-olds, old ladies, anybody. But the injury count said that was a lie. Okay. He then, went on to decide, okay, we need summer stuff. I'm making myself a water park with my ski resort. And he ended up making 75 rides, 40 of which were water rides. Okay, so first they had these tanks, okay, in the racing section. They had tanks. And the tanks themselves weren't that bad, but they would have the employees run out to get all the balls while people were still able to shoot at them. So it was just more dangerous for the employees than it was people. Then they had the go-karts. Now the go-karts themselves did have a safety mechanism, but the employees knew how to like wedge a tennis ball in there so that your go-kart go like 50 miles an hour. And sometimes they just do it willy-nilly. Other times you had to special request it. But this caused people going 50 miles an hour in fucking go-karts, head-on collisions. Not to mention the exhaust off these things was so problematic. People were literally getting sick, like, off these things. Just black smoke and crashes everywhere. I'm surprised more people didn't die from this, but actually most people died from the water rides. They did have some bungee rides. They had a skate park, but he built the skate park like so uneven and just full cement, no nothing. So people were just getting jacked up on that. He built his wave pool, was considered one of the most dangerous wave pools. Most of the deaths actually happened in the wave pool. They, on their busiest day, were claiming to have to save up to 30 people a weekend, if not a day. Sometimes they had to have multiple lifeguards because they would let so many people get in the pool, and the waves were going so high and fast that people were drifting and not realizing it, and then getting stuck in the deeper end. They also had the diving cliff, which had no signs, one lifeguard, just people jumping from high, people jumping from low, people just trying to swim out, getting bonked. Like, it was craziness. They also had rapids, which were too rough, being claimed to be a family ride, and then you're just all over the place. This was his most famous one. It was the cannonball loop. So you go down the slide, and then the slide turns into a 360 loop. Okay, so the reason you don't see this, because it tends to be physically impossible for humans to keep, depending on weight, you're going to get them in the loop and you're going to end up just falling. You're not going to keep momentum. Generally, it'd have to be very scientific, which his way of testing this was just chuck a couple employees and some rice bags in and let's go. People were breaking their noses, their faces, like just scratched all the hell. There were even people who just got fucking stuck because they couldn't keep the momentum going. So that's fun. Hold up, let me finish the rides. I'm going to tell you the craziest thing I saw. Okay. Then they had the Tarzan. So you fly in on the Tarzan rope, you drop in. But this pool was so cold. A person literally had a heart attack. They hit the water and it sent their body into shock. So that was how one of the deaths happened. Most people would just pass out. So lifeguards had to always be on duty to carry people passed out. I would end up passing out. I know, my body cannot handle it. I tried to do it one time. I was at the beach with my friends and I ran into like the cold water. This had to be like in November or something. The water's already super cold and I'm like, wee, go. Like my boyfriend had to pull me out and give me a Pop-Tart to get my body back. And then it was also drink however much you want at whatever age you want. There was no regulation. So you have to also imagine this as you have incredibly shoddy rides, not even being built by engineers. They're literally just the boss has an idea, we're getting this built. You have teenagers working there. So it's all, think about it. Think about how we grew up. Lifeguards are teenagers. It's probably the most elder person there is probably 18. Then most of the people gonna go there fucking teenagers, getting drunk, getting wasted. So you have the workers are even getting wasted. So wasted teenage workers watching over their wasted teenage friends. The amount of devastation to bodies there is So this guy, so he got a reputation for being crazy. So it ended up bringing him down, which was crazy because people were like, this place is so fucking dangerous. But he kept weaseling his way out of any kind of trouble because of how much money he had and his connections. So eventually, though, it came out that he didn't actually have insurance like you're supposed to have for these type of places. He knowing how dangerous this stuff was and how shoddy it was, made himself an insurance provider. Apparently he was the insurance, and then he bought it from himself and put that on the paperwork that he was the insurance person. And then that's how he got taken down for insurance fraud. And this place ended up closing down like in the 90s. Now, he did sell it off. The next place didn't do so great. Then his son even tried reopening it, but the name was tarnished. So it did not go great. The son ended up changing the name back to the second buyer's name so people wouldn't associate so much. And I think the last I saw, they were still open, but it is not this at all. Like, not at all. So those are my 2 park stories, which I just thought was crazy. I kind of want to visit. Now, I will say, the Kings Island one, that park, all the pictures, all the rides, looks a lot like King's Dominion here in Virginia. Like, a lot. Eiffel Tower and all. So I did want to look up. So if you are from Virginia or have ever been to King's Dominion, you can kind of know exactly what you're looking at. They look exactly alike. They obviously had the same creators. And then I just thought it was so funny. I really wanted to be able to ask my dad if he ever went to a venture park, but I never got a chance to. So maybe we'll have an update on that. So thank you guys so much for listening to me ramble about tonight's insomniac interest. Please hit like, hit subscribe. Give me some ideas. What are you looking up this time of night? What's your mind reeling about? Let me know in the comments. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.